Okay. Okay, anyway, today's April Fool's Day, and we were talking about earlier how I like to, this is a great day to honor the fool. Zorba was a fool. Zorba said you have to be, every person has to have a little madness to cut the rope. So you have to have a fool inside of you, and not be embarrassed by it, to cut the rope.
Makes good sense.
Otherwise, you're the Englishman who can't dance. He couldn't even have sex. You know, he couldn't make a decision. He was paralyzed by the either or of his mind. If I do this, oh my God, that'll happen. If I do that, oh my God, that'll happen. I don't know what to do. You know, so he was paralyzed by the choices of the mind, which weighs everything. Zorba said, you weigh everything too much. You know, you think too much, you weigh everything. You know, so we weigh everything, and we weigh it like pro and con, right? Well, if I add up all the pros and this one weighs more than the negatives, well, I'll choose that. But what we don't realize when we live in this world of either or is what we don't choose follows us. It doesn't follow us, but it meets us coming at us from the future as the obstacle that defeats us. You know, so we choose, I think I'm going to control everything and make everything work by going this way, and I'm going that way, and I think I've left all the problems behind, and I meet them coming at me, and the project fails. But anyway, so yeah, Zorba was the, was kind of, for me, was that metaphor of the fool who dared to cut the rope and be free. So he appeared foolish. So the fool always, so that's one of the risks you have. One of the things I wrote about this morning, I was writing about this, but think about if you, who what this was you wasn't you that was going to have cataracts that removed, it was the other, some other guy.
I had cataracts.
All right, imagine this. Suppose one day you went to sleep and you woke up with having cataracts removed, but you didn't know you had cataracts. So you thought that the world was gray or cloudy. And of course everyone else has the same cataracts, so we all agree this is the real world. But you go to sleep and you wake up and you don't have cataracts. And everything is bright in HD TV, whereas yesterday it was a TV antenna, you know? Well, you go around and tell everybody, wow, you know, the world really is clear and beautiful and brilliant. And they would say, you're a fool. You know, so that...
And you told me when I said I was getting them, you said it doesn't take long till it's
everyday sight.
It's every day.
Yeah. It's like we have a new kitchen. We had a new kitchen put in, and it was like cataracts being removed. Oh, the old kitchen is gone. Oh, look at the beautiful kitchen. Everybody comes in. Oh, look at the beautiful. Now it's just a kitchen.
So you've never talked about Jonathan Livingston Seagull in this class.
I know. I've read
that applies to what you just said.
Well, yeah, I've forgotten about Jonathan. Anyway, so this, I think what we're looking at is the, anyone else had cataracts?
We've had surgery on both eyes.
Yeah, if you've had cataracts, you've been.
Yeah.
You have.
I had one then.
Yeah, so everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When you come out, I remember, because when I took the bandage off, it was like, oh, wow.
Real clear, with no
But
glasses.
what it is the immediate contrast. Because after a while, the wow's gone. I mean, it's just everyday vision, like it was before when you had the cataract. But immediately afterwards, wow. And the only way the wow happens is because of the sudden contrast between what it was, you know. So what happens on the spiritual path is that we get this wow, and then we want to keep it because it's such a great thing. So now we got this problem: is how do I keep the wow going when the wow was dependent upon the contrast with the was? So the farther you get away from the was, the more the wow begins to wane, and the more panic you get because I want the wow back. So now we begin to chase the wow. Well, maybe I'll do some yoga, start meditating, or I'll go to this religion instead of that one, you know, or this guy promised me this, or this guy on TV said I'd get it. So they're all trying to sell us a way to get the wow back. And you can't get it back. Because the wow was dependent upon the contrast of losing the was. So this is why Zen says everyday mind is enlightenment. Like the disciple, the student goes to the Zen master and says, what is enlightenment? He said everyday mind. Or he might say, go wash the dishes. Or clean the dog. You see, so.
Would you back up and do some more with cutting the rope to be free?
All right, yeah, I'll get around to that.
All right.
Okay, so what I was thinking about today, now I've never shared this with anybody, so maybe I'm going to be a little, this is not an experienced talk, but, so I wanted to share my own personal wow that happened in 1968, which has really brought me here. Because it has been a driving force in my life to get the wow back, which is what I was just describing. So anyway, let me describe, and like I said, I've never really articulated this or described it before because I didn't properly understand it myself, or again, you don't want to appear the fool. You know, so we're going to talk about foolishness. Okay, so 1968. What were you all doing in 1968?
Having kids and trying to keep your head above water.
Raising kids, working.
What?
Raising kids and working.
Okay. So how old were you in 19?
28.
We were just beginning to have children.
Okay. I was
Mine were
teaching-
old by then.
Nobody here was in high school.
No.
No, we're beyond that.
Yeah.
Well, I was teaching high school in 1968, let's put it that way. So I was somewhere in my 20s, I don't know what it was. But I had been on a search for truth, let's put it that way, and I had been, like the Life of Pi, I'd been going through different searches, Thomas Merton, and I studied philosophy, and that didn't work, and was going to be a minister, and they kicked me out, and you know, so things, you know, a lot of my projects were collapsing, you know, that kind of thing, and so a friend of mine said, I recorded this tape of Krishnamurti. And
Krishnamurti.
Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti.
That's all one word, Krishnamurti. His name was,
You don't have his book here, do you?
I don't have it with me, his first name is
Judo.
Judo.
This is J. Krishnamurti.
J. Krishnamurti.
Okay, was he a philosopher or?
Spiritual.
No, he was a, you could call him a Buddha, but in the
Spiritual
tradition.
Teacher.
He wasn't Buddha, in the tradition of that teaching, because he was, basically to give you a little background, there was, in the turn of the century, the 20s in that area, a Theosophical Society, which was in both Europe and America, and it was a big spiritual society that was hot on the trail of spiritual teachers, and this whole awakening of spiritual, but it was coming out of the Victorian age, and so they were looking for, and they knew there was one, and they were going to find him, like the Tibetans find the next Buddha, or Dalai Lama rather. You know, the Tibetans when one Dalai Lama dies, that child is the next Dalai Lama, that kind of. So they were looking for the next world teacher, and they figured out it was Krishnamurti. He was a young Indian from India. He was a young, I don't know what he was doing, but he was teaching or a philosopher, I don't know what. But anyway, he figured he was it. So they kind of like anointed him with this very powerful institutional crown of being the next world teacher. And so he rejected it. Wrote him a letter, famous letter, and said, I refuse to, I don't accept the role. I'm not a guru. I'm not going to create disciples. And so he spent the rest of his life, which was rather long. I think he died, he was way up in his 80s somewhere.
Yeah.
Lived in Oxnard, had a ranch out there, but he basically just sit under the tree and talk to people. And of course they recorded his talks and became books. So all of his books are conversational. They're not like philosophical treatises or anything, but it's just him talking. And usually you'll have people asking questions. So it's this dialogue. That's all he did. And so he's written now, on the internet particularly, people are always dropping quotes from Krishnamurti. So it's like he's being dripped into our consciousness, one drop at a time. Well, I got the full faucet. I got a bucket full. So I go to sleep listening to this tape of Krishnamurti. It's kind of hard to understand because he's Hindu, he speaks with a little, Indian accent. And I wake up in the morning, sounds different. And I go look in the mirror, in the bathroom, and I just break out laughing because I recognize myself. And it was like, I know you. It was like, where have you been? All my life, I've been looking for you. And here you are. Is that just that? In other words, I looked in the mirror and I didn't see the personality that I had when I went to bed. The me that went to bed was not there when I woke up. And I began to, I was just totally connected to my body. I began to do yoga postures spontaneously. In other words, I'd never even done yoga. I didn't know what yoga was. And I was sitting in the lotus posture. You ever try to sit in the lotus posture? The lotus posture is where your legs, you have to look at somebody sitting there. I can't do it. But I was standing on my head, sitting in lotus posture. I had a little motorcycle, and I was riding my motorcycle like Evel Knievel. Just going over, just free, Students started begin to, were coming to my house. They started accumulating around me. I had this tremendous energy going on, and I remember very specifically that, in other words, a paradigm something had shifted, and I had no idea what had shifted because I had not studied any maps. I didn't have any maps for this.
Would you categorize it as an epiphany?
No.
No?
It was a change in my state of being. It wasn't like, aha. It was, I'm not the person that went to bed last night. And I remember, I was in a state of knowing. In other words, the knower, not the me who knows, because I read all this stuff, but the knower was awake. So, I got into this trying to explain this because, for instance, I remember picking up the Bible and reading the words of Jesus, and I was reading the words as Jesus spoke them. I connect this to a story. I remember reading about the English in Australia with a Aborigine tracker. And they were curious about how can you track a rabbit, maybe it wasn't a rabbit, maybe it was a kangaroo or something. How do you track that animal over this bare rock?
Oh, this what?
Bare rock,
Bear Rock,
there's no trail.
okay.
And how do you track an animal over bare rock? And he said, oh, I go into dream time and walk with the animal as he's walking. So there is, in other words, the world we live in now, this Western paradigm that we all agree is cataracts. All right. So the world of cataracts is that it's a world of linear time. So I'm in time right now, we measure it by the minutes, but I'm not in the time of that kangaroo, and I'm not in the time of Jesus, or anyone, I'm not, in other words, this is a whole different paradigm in which time collapses. So if I read the book, and I actually did this, when I read, not Jesus, but read Walt Whitman. And I read Walt Whitman songs myself, and I was Walt Whitman, not physically Walt Whitman, but I was reading the poems as if I were with him when he wrote them. So you see, that's a collapse of time. At the same time, I knew that I was here and Walt Whitman was back there in time. But on this dimension that opened up, two things were going on. There was this surface map of I'm here and he's back in the past. But the other dimension was over here where there is no time, and I am reading and speaking Walt Whitman together. So this, we call this empathy maybe, or where you're in the shoes of the other person, but the other person is from the past. And I think this is what happens when we resonate with a teaching. And we feel a resonance with it, that we are actually doing that, but we're not really understanding it in that clarity. We just feel like we're reading the teaching as the teaching is being spoken, so that the teaching and I are one. You see. But then the mind comes in, well, no, that's stupid, I'm not that, So then we're pulled back, you see, into this separate. But for these empathy moments, for these aha moments, and this is what Krishnamurti, what his basic teaching was, the observer and the observed is one. But this is not, this is like, it's the collapse of our view that I'm separate from you in the world. I'm still separate, but at the same time, this other dimension has been put to sleep. But when I went to bed and woke up, it had awakened up. So it was like another dimension that is present in human existence, but has been put to sleep in our modern worldview. In the modern worldview, the only view that's real is the objective view. Everything is a thing. We just assume that. It's common sense. Everything is a separate thing, and they bounce around, we bounce around together, governed by cause and effect. If I take this and throw it against the wall, then I'm causing this to go against the wall, and the effect is like a hole in the wall. We just think that way. Something causes something else, and we're a bunch of billiard balls bouncing around here. This dimension, this other dimension that is present, has been more or less put to sleep. So when I woke up the next morning, it was awake. I went to school. And I remember walking into the school, and all the eyes in the hallway before the class. It was like the soul, the light of consciousness was coming through everybody. There's a painter that did eyes. I've forgotten who it was, but I remember some painter who just painted, big eye, eyes, So these, it was like I remember very clearly, that everybody's, the light of consciousness was shining through their eyes. So everybody's eyes was like a little lamp. And so I went into class and I took the English class. I took the textbook and threw it in the trash can. And I began to channel Krishnamurti. So I began to, start talking about what I'm talking to you right now. I began to talk to them about, and half the class got down in front, and they were just taking notes like crazy. And the other half of the class was in the back like,
Who's this nut?
who's this fool? But fortunately, this was May. It was school was going to be over soon. Because I had them standing on their head. I got up on the desk and stood on my head. And then you do it, so everybody was standing on their head. And I remember the principal walking by. So for the exam, and I was, let's face it,
Captain by captain.
But let's face it, I was, when I had no idea what happened to me, but I just knew that something had happened, and that something was different, and that this was just happening. It wasn't like, I should go back and hide in the closet, or go see a therapist. This was a full-blown schizophrenia. No, it wasn't a schizophrenia, but apparently it would have, probably could have been diagnosed as that. So anyway, I had several other realizations during that time. Go ahead.
Okay, if it was a realization, it was a realization of what?
Well, in other words, so when I remember,
Because it was temporary, wasn't it?
yes,
Yeah.
it lasted for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Then I wanted the wow back. That's what I said before, in other words, the overpowering wowness of this experience was based on the overwhelming loss or drop of the personality I was before. You see, so it was like the new kitchen. There's an old kitchen, and then suddenly, it's a new kitchen.
How long did,
So,
was it just 2 weeks that it lasted?
it's hard to tell. There wasn't any line. It just began. But what I'm saying is that, using the kitchen metaphor, how can you keep the wow of the new kitchen going after 6, 7, 8 months? You see what I mean? It naturally begins to become everyday kitchen. Well, I didn't want it to become everyday mine because I was attached to the wow of me being special. Okay, so I must be special, have some special insight, some special connection, some special power, and I did. In other words, it was the sense that I knew what everybody was doing. It was like I knew I could sense the unconscious movements of people that they weren't aware of. So that it was like my consciousness was free of the unconscious, what other people It's like, it was like the Matrix. Did you all see the Matrix?
Yes.
Matrix was about some people who were conscious versus the people who were hypnotized by or cloned or become computerized or whatever. The movies do a lot of this theme. So this theme is very, the awakened individual versus the herd that is just operating unconsciously. And their buttons are being pulled by somebody behind the curtains, or something. Apple did this when the Mac came out. The IBM or the PC man was a machine man, the herd man, the corporate man, and the Apple guy was a true human being. He was in touch with his body. He was relaxed. The PC man was glasses and all intellect. Remember those ads? Apple and somebody. I'm sure y'all.
Where was your ego here now? And your special person?
The personality, the ego that I had dropped off, but I created a new one.
That's what I'm saying. So you now have a new ego.
I have it, yeah. It's called a spiritual ego.
Okay.
And it's the most difficult ego to get rid of because the spiritual ego definitely has insights that the old ego didn't have, but he likes it.
Yeah, you're special, yeah.
And then people, if you get people to come listen to you, well then obviously that enhances your importance.
And your awareness of your perceptions.
Yeah, so the world is full of these little cases where somebody gets a supercharge from some spiritual connection, and suddenly the magnetic field changes, and all the little iron filings begin to collect around them, you see. And so then that increases the charge. So the wow keeps on going now, but the wow is created by attracting
Environment.
filings, attracting admirers, you see. So anyway, this was a transformative experience for me, and I had two heartfelt realizations. One of them was that I needed to find a guru or somebody who could tell me what the hell was going on. And I also had a body connection with God as creator, in the sense that I and God were the same. In other words, when Jesus said the Father and I are one, well, I was experiencing that. So it wasn't like me, it's not the sense of I'm God, it's the sense of the heart unity with one source, or within the cosmos. So there is no sense of separation there was no sense of separation between myself and God. So
I would call that grace.
yeah.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah, there's different words. Yeah.
What?
He said you could call it grace.
Great, Grace, okay.
Yeah, so I had always been in search of my father, because my physical father was not able to bond with me, so I always was looking for that connection. And prior to this awakening, I had switched that wanting to find acceptance from my physical father to a spiritual level. So God the Father as truth and my own physical father kind of like came together in my search for them, So anyway, that search had ended right then. However, because I did feel the at-one-ment with the Father that I've been looking for. So there was these two imperatives. One of them was to find path or a guru or an understanding of what had happened. And the other one was, what am I gonna do with myself now? I mean, what service can I provide? Because there was this imperative to speak, to do something. It wasn't going back in the closet. So these became the imperatives of my life and set me off on my wandering, because as the wow began to fade, the wake of the spiritual ego remained, but it was hollow. The energy that originally opened could not be held. And what was left was the shell. So then, and I remember, it was kind of like this, the energy, it was kind of like, it was very female. It was like the goddess. In Indian language, in India, it's called Shakti. Shakti is a feminine quality, but it's the creative energy of the world. It's the cosmos creating itself. In other words, it's not like energy that's being applied to this. The world we live in is that if you want to make this move, you have to apply energy to it. There's no energy in this. In other words, to make this move, energy's got to come to it. This is a mechanical world. This energy was not coming to me. I was that energy. So we are Shakti. Artists know this. When you're an artist who is in the zone of his art, he feels that the art is doing him. If he's writing, the writing just writes itself. If you're a painter, the painting paints itself, and you're saying, wow, look what the paint's doing. But as soon as you say, I did it, now you are trying to catch the energy for your self-enhancement. And the energy, being feminine, will not be held and controlled. It's going to say bye-bye. Call me again when you grow up. So this began a life search to grow up, you see, so that this Shakti would come and live and not go away again. So that was the ingredients for my spiritual journey.
And the impetus.
Yeah, I mean, this created the meandering search for
Truth.
the wow that would not go away. So the wow that does not go away is the wow of a child. Oh, a dandelion, wow. You say, oh, I'm watching a movie, wow. Or I'm meeting a person, wow. That kind of open wonder that we all long for it because we had it once when we were children, but it left because we bought into the worldview that the world isn't wowful. The worldview that we live in now is that the world is actually a bunch of dead stuff. Just things, stuff moving around, knocking against each other, caused by external energies put on it and whatever, but it's dead because it's not a living world. Yeah.
What was interesting in your discussion was you started out seeking truth after your experience, and then you wound up finding God
Yeah.
as central to your truth. Now, I kept wondering, where are you with angels? Could an angel have appeared? That's spiritual, but where are you in your...
Well, that's a label. All right, I could say this. All right, so I have a problem with power washers. I get these Honda power washers at Costco for $300. So the first one I got, I didn't drain it, so it froze. It went, Then I got another one, and the second one, I go, now I'm not gonna freeze it, so what I did was I took the, I took the protection you put in the pump, and I put it in the oil compartment, and that froze the power washer up again. I took it back to Costco and said, this thing doesn't work, and they said, all right, here's another one. I took it back, and so I got through I protected it correctly, and then this spring, I mean, just a little while ago, I said, well, let me test it again. So I went out, and, is it gonna work this time? So I got the power washer, boom, it started. Oh, wow, it worked, cleaned my deck, turned it off, went back the next day to turn it. It was jammed. Oh, the thing is jammed, I couldn't get it, it was just locked tight. So I said, the heck with it, I'll have to, I'm giving up on power washers. And so then I said, well, maybe I'll try it the next day. So I started the next day, boom, and it started. Bam, it was running good, and I turned it on, the power working, the pump went out. And the engine kept running, and the pump was going. Damn it, this is it, So I said, well, I was gonna get rid of it or throw it in the trash, whatever. Next day, well, let me try it again. Started again, came on beautifully, the pump's working, the whole thing. An angel did it.
Amen. No, I've got personal experience with
But
just
see
like
what I
that.
mean? Now, see, I can give a meaning to that. There are all different ways I can give meaning to that. One way would be an angel did it. You see what I mean? So the facts are that all we have is the facts. And the facts are that the thing started and then it didn't start and then it started again. That's all we know. Now, on top of that, I can say God did it, the angel did it, good luck did it, my karma did it. I did some good works and helped people, so now I'm getting good things back. I can create any kind of story I want on those 3 little twigs. And that's the life of Pi. All you know is that there was a boy in a boat in the sunk ship, and he ended up on the shore, and all the rest of it is what you add to it.
Several stories, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, angels are useful if you want to use them. Let's put it that way.
Well, Benny Hinn taught me, and I don't go for Benny Hinn, that if you want an angel, he said scripturally, you have to praise God, check me out, to release an angel to help you do what you can't do.
Okay, right
Now,
there.
time out. Am I on the right track or not?
I just ask God, when I need help, I just ask for help, sincerely. I just believe that if you pray a sincere prayer, you will be heard. But I don't have angels or anything like that. But I think angels are just right thoughts.
Well, Catholicism uses saints like
We
angels.
have saints, yeah.
You would have your
Pray to the saints.
special
saints.
saint. Yeah.
Thank you, I'm sorry I messed up your class, I just,
That's
you
all
get
right.
my brain
That's
spinning
all right, we're on
around.
track. What we're looking at here, the paradigm we're looking at here, the Western paradigm is that in order for this to move, some energy has to come in outside of it to move it. I've got to move it, somebody's got to come in and knock this and knock it over. Poltergeist, some angel must pick it up and throw it and say, oh. There's a spirit in the world because they just moved this. But something moved, this is dead. It's not going to move unless something, that's the way we look at the world, and it's a very good way to look at the world because you make things like this. You can't make things like this if you don't look at it like that. But understanding our life, you see, we need a different, this is a map that understands machines. But it doesn't compute, it doesn't cover life. Because life is organic. Machines are mechanical. An organism does not work like a machine. In organism, everything is happening at once. All the cells are moving, all the organs, all the livers and the hearts, they're all working together spontaneously.
In harmony.
All of them know what to do. There is nothing in the body that tells every cell in the body what to do, like a dictator. They all know what to do, spontaneously. So if you get a hurt here, the whole body knows what to do. The brain is part of the body, so the brain is like that. But thought, which is kind of like the mahut, right? You see? But the body is Zorba.
Say that again?
The body is Zorba.
Okay.
I'm making a little jump around here, but you see what I mean? So the body wisdom knows what to do. Because everything from the body is all rising simultaneously. It's a dance. This is Buddhism. Everything, the world is not happening linearly, like my parents caused me, you see, or I'm caused by something. Everything is rising at once simultaneously together, like in music. If you listen to music, it's not like reading a book. If you read a book, you say you're going to read it left to right, like a little, you're going to read like a line of ants. Music is boom, everything is at once. So there's a different, so that was kind of like the way I was experiencing the world, was a total shift in the paradigm of the world from the Western way of seeing things, in which I saw myself as a unworthy son who was not loved by the father, and I couldn't do anything because my father told me I couldn't. So that was my self-image, you see. But that was the self-image of a thing.
Is music organic?
Yeah. Yeah. So the image of a thing is that this is this, and it can't be this. It's this, and it has qualities. Right? It's red, kind of hold.
Except for 3D printing.
Yeah. Changes everything. You see what I mean? So if I think in terms of things, and then I think of myself as a thing with qualities, well, then I'm trapped in my thingness. I will always be this. I can't be that. And then I have, this thing has a cause, and I can't go back and change the cause, so I'm determined, I'm doomed in my thingness. Well, this worldview that I experienced and was dropped into totally wipes that out. It's just gone. So everything, it's like, instead of writing print like this, everything appears at once. Like you see when in movies or TV, when you open a magic book and maybe an angel was writing it, suddenly the print all appears at once. In other words, everything is everything. So this world is interconnected. Everything is interconnected, and it's not just a bunch of separate things. So yeah, so this dropping. I was like dropped. I was like picked up and dropped. And picked up by this crane, and from my previous sense of who I was, and just dropped into a wonderland, like Alice drops into the hole. So now I had to find a map that would explain my experience, and also to find a purpose for it, because there was an imperative to do something. This is the imperative with in Christianity to preach the gospel. Like the imperative in Christianity is to speak the word, preach the gospel, whether you're a minister or not. So people running around preaching the gospel. But there was no gospel to preach. You can't. How do you preach your existence? So how do you can preach a gospel, which is kind of like I'm going to teach you dramedy. I can teach you that. So it'd be like preach this, you see, because this will save your butt. So there was nothing to preach. So it was a state of being, or a state of awakening. And And when you try to talk about that, you are a fool. So anyway, like I said, it launched me on this meandering path to answer these imperative questions. So I went to Florida. I was going to teach in a high school there. That was a new high school that was created to handle rebel teachers. That was in this, got to have something new, we got to have some exciting teachers. So somehow, like an angel helped me get a job in this school. And I immediately threw the textbook in the trash can and began to teach Krishnamurti and
Kicked you right
kicked
out.
me out. So then what am I gonna do? Well, I'm gonna be a Presbyterian minister. So I go to Presbyterian minister, had no church, nothing, so I told you all about this, and I go get in, I get in, the administration board meets and out. So I go to, so a friend of mine's been into yoga, I meet him, he's, the first time I meet him, he's got hashish in both pockets, he'd been to Afghanistan. And the next time I meet him, he's got autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda in one hand and hash in the other. And the next time I meet him, he doesn't have any hash, he's just got the yoga. So I said, what's going on?
Well, you became a teenager.
Teenagers love me. We were all doing seances and sitting together. So anyway, so I said, what's going on? So I got this yoga teacher who's an awakened yoga master, up in Cleveland, Alice Christensen. She was picked up and dropped too. She was an Ohio housewife and began to have dreams of this yogi guru from India. Didn't know who in hell it was, what yoga was. Went to the library to find out what yoga meant. And he began to teach her in his dreams. And then he began to appear in her room. And then she said, he said, you come to see me in India. He lived in the Himalayas, Kashmir. And she was getting ready to go when a telegram came, he died. But, or a letter came, or I don't know where she heard he died. But he had told her that your teacher will come. So she got hooked up with the Theosophical Society or something like that. And some Indian guru or master was coming from India. And would you go down, Alice, and meet him at the plane? And so when he went to meet Rama, he looked at her and said, I've come for you. So he was her teacher. And she went to India and stayed under him and began to get to the point where she was going to start her own yoga society. So she started the Light of Yoga Society. And all these young people full of spiritual hunger became attracting, including me. And so we went there, and it was kind of like the Cadillac Yoga Society, and it was all very, it was classical Raja Yoga. You stop eating meat. And first time I met her,
Quit smoking.
I think maybe I told you, but the first time I met her, went up, she was getting ready to go out the door, and I said, I want to be your student. And she said, oh, okay. She grabbed a book and said, some yoga postures, do this, and this one. She wrote down, say this mantra of 60, say a mala. A mala bead is 108 beads. She said, do 60 rounds a day.
Come back next year.
You do 60 rounds a day, don't stop drinking, stop smoking, and stop eating meat, all of which I did. And come back and see me in a year. And I said, oh, great, that's all I gotta do? Oh, and I was off, so I did that. So I did that. No problem. So now I go back thinking I've really accomplished something. My little spiritual ego, you see. And so they were, the metaphor that sticks out was that my metaphor, the little cartoon, remember the commercial, Charlie the Tuna?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie, he was always not good enough to get to the tuna factory. Well, that was my character. So I'm going to be a yoga teacher, right? And now that's going to be my spiritual path. I'm going to preach yoga. I'm going to save the world with yoga. And so they were having a big group picture of all the yoga teachers who were teaching, had classes and everything. And I get ready to go over, and Alice turned, oh, not yet. Not yet. So I got tired of waiting. So I left the Light of Yoga Society. And I got hooked up with Swami Muktananda, who was a big circus tent guru. You know, I mean, he would create a Siddha Yoga circus wherever he landed. Thousands of people in a hotel. You know, the whole, he transplanted Siddha Yoga is a Shakti yoga where the guru gets a transmission from his teacher of energy, so that it's passed down through lineage. So this energy is transmitted from guru to student. When the student is ready, he becomes a guru, and he has the power through his Shakti to awaken your spiritual energy. So thousands of people would come. I mean, this is, you know, in Christianity you might call it healing. You know, these mega churches where everybody's, and the minister comes, boom, you know, oh, you know, that's Shakti. And you get into a closed container like that, it can be really strong. Holy rollers, well, you know, when we go to meditating there, I mean, there'd be 1,000 people in a big hotel room. And you'd turn off the lights and meditate for 30 minutes, and it would start popping like a holy roller meeting. People start shouting like chickens and rolling down the aisles, and you say, oh, it's the Shakti. And you'd feel it, you'd jerk, you say, whoop. Oh, the Shakti. Whoa. So, I mean, the image, he walked into the room once, and looked at him. The evening program basically was a big, you know, meeting, and there'd be chanting, and then Muktananda would come in and he'd sit down, and people would line up down the aisle, rows, and come up, and he'd sit there with peacock feathers, and he'd bat you with the peacock feathers, and you would either say something if you had something, or lucky, or give him something.
Did you deposit money?
No. You paid for that when you ate. There was no tithing. But if you went to a retreat, and it called an intensive, you might spend $500.
Did you ever experience a transfer of energy to you from a guru?
Yes, but I'll get to that. So anyway, the meetings were, that was the formal, you know, the guru would come down and sit, and he had a big picture of his guru behind him. Nityananda, he was a powerful, you can call them saints if you want, you know, instead of gurus, same way. So anyway, he would pass you with cigarette, you know, with peacock feathers, and his assistant would give you a piece of chocolate, and people had experiences. I never had any experiences there doing that. But the, I remember one time I was sitting in there, we were waiting, and he came in the room, and an electric shock hit came off with the same intensity of a lightning strike. And it happened inside the room somewhere, it was a big room. He walked in the room and bam! And everybody's hair went,
You were there?
yeah. Just like if the lightning hit outside, you know, and your hair stood on end.
We saw Blackstone do things. Was this for real, or was this?
Yeah, I'm telling you my experience.
Your experience?
Yeah. Yeah, that was, you know, and I don't know who got the shock, who got burnt, but there was a, you know, that's what lightning is. It's a charge of electricity that meets a ground. Right? So this whole idea with this tradition is that the guru, the master, has a supercharge of energy, psychic energy. And that if you are receptive, that he can look at you or touch you and zoop, you get a shot into your spiritual, you get, it's like, well, it's like the Honda, if it licks your, like my Snapper lawnmower, if the battery goes dead, I have another battery, and I hook it up to the little thing in the Honda Snapper,
Terminals.
and boom, it runs. So this idea is that when we live in the Western world, all of our energy goes into the system. We only have maybe $400 to handle emergency, right? Didn't you just say that?
Yeah, that's the American.
Right, all right, so I've only got $400 in case I need some extra energy, I just got a few bucks. It's all my energy goes into maintaining the system, my life in the system, you see. I got no extra energy. So I got no extra energy for spiritual growth. That's leisure energy. See, if I'm working 9 to 5, I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to, go to retreats and all that stuff. And what good is that? I gotta work. So there was no energy. So if you go to some master like that who's got a big battery full of energy, and you want some energy, you might start feeling your life moving again. You might start feeling, wow, I'm resonating here, So that's the idea behind it. That's why, in the ancient traditions, like the king in symbolism has abundance of energy. That's why the kings of old are carried around on the backs of other people. They're not allowed to touch the ground. Or the red carpet is rolled out. The king who has the supercharge of energy doesn't want to ground it in the ground. It wants to keep it for the people, you see. So you get blessings and you get this transfer of energy. But that's the symbolism behind it. So, so anyway, that the experience, to answer your question, Muktananda went, maybe it's the winter of 1979, but they went to Miami, down to South Beach. And these people were like Jehovah's Witnesses. They build churches. The one in Blackstone was like that. They all came together like ants, and they built that Jehovah's Witness church in about a week. The whole thing, boom. Everybody's, like Mormons or like Amish. They all come together and build a barn. So all the Muktananda people come together and they built this, they reconverted this hotel in South Beach into a palace. With beautiful, all the rooms were fixed up in the beautiful meditation hall and everything. And it was open to the public, so people, all the drunks, and at that time, South Beach was in ruins, and now I think that was what turned it around. But anyway, South Beach was, so people would come in off the street. So I went down there, and this was interesting how I did this. I was divorced, I got divorced from my wife. Didn't work. So, but I was still friends. In fact, when I lost my apartment, I was living in the basement.
Children?
Yeah, 2. They're about
Your
10,
daughter.
11, 12 and 10, something like that. Maybe younger. So I decided, I was driving a milk truck, and Muktananda was down there in Miami, so I wanted to go down there. So went by the house, Tilly had gone to work, so I went by the house to get the kids off. And David went on to school. Shannon said, my younger daughter, I want to go, I want to go. And I said, you can't go. So I thought she went to school, so she left. So I got in the car, started driving, and about halfway out of Cleveland, I heard this noise. Turned around, Shannon's hidden in the back of the car under the blanket. So called up Tilly and said, look, I got, Shannon really wants to go, and she's in the car, we're halfway out of town, so school's already started. So we'll be back in a few days. How about it? Okay, go ahead. So we went, and we were like 2 kids escaping the castle. I mean, we were just screaming out the window, waving at people. So we got down there, and Shannon took to this ashram like a swan to a lake. this chanting and all this stuff. She just dove right into it, loved it there. So she always made that connection with this tradition. So anyway, the last day, and so Shannon's, I'm sitting in there, it's on my farewell chant, that's what I have now. You know, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And my personality, the thinking me, and that was the one that died back there when Krishnamurti talked to me.
Saw you in the mirror.
The thinking me, suddenly like, you have to imagine that you're here in this little thinker, and suddenly you are this space, and your thinker is like a little worm squiggling right here. And this little worm of thinking me, and I'm this space, it says, I'm going to die. And this space then becomes kind of like light, and thinking me goes up into the light like a moth goes to a lantern, and it goes up, and then it comes back down, and it's all burnt, you know, and it says, oh, that's what death is like. And so the aftermath of that was, it's called a state of samadhi, in which you are absolutely at peace with existence. I mean, a truck could hit you right there and it'd be all right. You know, just absolutely no conflict within, no conflict without, and it's a state of the peace that passes understanding type of thing. So, and I immediately knew that I could get remarried, that something had shifted, that had broken the marriage up, that was gone. And until he recognized it when I got back, and so we got remarried and started this next parts of our journey. Yeah, so that was a transformative experience because it radically changed the direction of my life. Like,
Paradigm shift.
yeah, totally. So then after that, we became center leaders for center yoga, and we had people come to the house for meditation. And then I decided I needed a PhD. So we were going to, the PhD in this yoga was to go live at the guru's house.
Out higher and
So we
deeper,
went
yeah.
to India, sold our house. Tilly's mother thought we were fools. Spent the money on a trip to India. But so go to India and stayed for 4 months or something, and then. But in my mind, I was going to get the credentials to be a spiritual teacher. See, I needed a plaque.
Certified and anointed.
I needed certified. I needed something anointed by the teacher. I needed some kind of, in the Christian religion, I mean, you go get a degree. It's an institutional anointment, you see. So I wanted the guru to say, okay, you're ready. Godspeed, you know. Well, all I got was a ski cap, and he pulled it down over my head and said, it's going to be cold where you're going. So I go back to, we go back to Virginia to Tilly's mother lived in Blackstone. And we go there and live in her upstairs, take a room up there, you know. And so here I am, you know. So this was a temporary move that turned out to be permanent. And but I left with, I don't need to get into the rest of the bumps along the road, maybe later, but to bring it up to date, my personal path has been the trying to get the wow back without trying to get the wow back. In other words, is to just do the work.
Let it happen.
Just do the grunge, just get your fingers dirty, just do the work of living, and keeping your eye on the prize, but just doing the daily work, which means, well, for me it meant leaving the whole tradition, everything, I worked for the newspaper for 8 years, and then I ran a photography studio. And I gave up the whole spiritual path, everything, nothing, no more, so I just dropped the whole thing fell off. And in 2005, my daughter, who was going through her snit fits up in New York with bad relationships and whatever, was stuck. Her career wanted to go this way, her boyfriend wanted to go that way, and whatever. So she was there, so I said, well, let's go up to Yogaville and see if you like that. Well, Yogaville is an ashram of Yogananda, Swami Satchidananda. He had died, but the ashram is still there. So we went to the ashram, and Shannon took to it just like she did back in Miami. So she decided to stay there. So she stayed there and worked in their program for a month. Went back to New York, and her life changed. The relationship fell off. She was on her own, and she was able to follow her heart. So, and I didn't go there for me, but while I was there, I had an adjustment. Like a chiropractic adjustment, And suddenly my path came back, But not the way it did before. What came back was my desire to meditate and to write. So these two imperatives came back. I have to meditate, I have to write. And then the idea came, well, since I'm not getting any credentials to be a teacher or whatever, screw it, I'll just step out there on my own. So I opened up a yoga studio, hung up a sign, and then my commercial came, the Maytag repairman. I'm sitting in there with a yoga class and nobody comes. So anyway, so this is like the next big shift came when I got a job with the Courier Record, writing about people. I realized that I could be creative at Blackstone, and I didn't have to go somewhere else. So for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking for what's the next place to go to. So this was it. So that really enabled my interior journey to open up, because I wasn't looking for a physical journey anymore. So this, I guess what I want, and how I ended up, then when I found, when meditation started and writing, I started writing a blog, and then I moved to Facebook, and so I just write. Which is kind of like Zorba, and like who said, when I dance, I'm free. So when I write, I'm free, because my fingers know what to do. So that's what I mean when getting in touch with your body. Your body knows what to do if the mind lets go of the reins. Trusting in the body instead of trusting in our thinking, which is always going to be either or. We have to see that. A thinking me is the product of functions in a either or choice thing. I either choose that or I choose that. Which is the better one? We get stuck when both have the same value. It's easy when it's obviously this is the right way and that's wrong. But when they both have the same value, it's called a double bind. Now I don't know what to do. Now I gotta have a savior. Somebody, a therapist, some wise person's gotta come in. What should I do? You ask a friend, what should I do? We're in a state of like fibrillation when the heart is not dead or pumping. It's like, it's kind of like, and if it continues, you have a nervous breakdown. So the only way out is to let go and go to the wisdom of the body. The body knows what to do.
Okay, so when you got something on your mind and you're worried about it, and just worried about it, it just flipped to thinking about your breathing, or your feet, or your legs, or your arms and hands, and then maybe they can balance it
Well,
together.
there has to be a death,
A death,
yeah.
the death of the
Of-
mind, of the
The
mental
death
thought.
of the problem,
A death, okay.
all right? So, in other words, like I said, if you don't, you know, if the positive outweighs the negative, you got no problem, you're just gonna do that, and you come out okay. But when they're like this is a spiritual problem. Because the mind, the thinking mind can't solve it, one or the other. They're both, then you go back and forth. Now, if I choose that, okay, I'll do that, but then the other side comes up and says, wait a minute. If you do that, this is gonna happen. Okay, I'll do this. Wait a minute, if you do this is gonna happen. You know, and so now you're like in an echo chamber. And it keeps increasing. Because we have to get out. I mean, it can be intense suffering, anxiety, stress, you know. And so it keeps, now you're afraid, now you're angry or afraid because you're caught. And now you are afraid you're afraid. And now you're afraid that you're afraid that you're afraid. And it becomes a vortex. And now we gotta have medication. You see, or we have a nervous breakdown, or we shoot ourselves. You know, I mean, that's where it goes. And so the value of this is that this is the only opportunity we have to reach the wisdom of the body. And the only way to reach the wisdom of the body is, first of all, to see that you can't get out. As long as you think you can get out, you're gonna try to get out. It's like a straitjacket. You know, as long as you think you can get out, you're gonna struggle. Or or sticky pads that the mouse is caught on. As long as the mouse thinks he's gonna get out, he's gonna keep hitting it until his nose is stuck, both paws, you know, until everything is glued on that thing, you know, then he says, I can't get out. So it's a sticky pad. And this is in this teaching, is that the first thing is to do is to recognize that you are stuck, that there is suffering, and the next thing is to say, pause, all right, what's going on here? I don't know what's going on, right? So you let go of your intellectual success in solving problems and just give up, I don't know. And then you can either ask God, or you can just ask your body. But you don't know. But the question is there. The question is the answer. When you ask the question from the heart that I don't know how to get out of this fix, the question is the solution. Because now you've given up the struggle to get out of the fix, and the struggle is what's creating the fix. You see that? If you can see that, the struggle to get out of this dilemma is the cause of the dilemma, but we think the dilemma is the cause of my suffering. You see? So, and the dilemma might be the other person, or the situation, or the relationship, or my health, or whatever these external things are. We believe in our system of thinking is that's the cause of my pain. But from the paradigm that we're working with is that we see that the cause of my psychological suffering is not by the things out there, but by the way I look at the situation, the way my posture, the way I view it. You see. So if I question the truth, which I thought I knew, if I just question it honestly, I don't know what to do, that releases us from the binding of the either or, and the body comes up. And you could switch the language and say grace, or an angel. But these are all labels.
The shadow
Or
knows.
the shadow, whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah, so no, it doesn't matter what label you put on it, because we're talking about something experiential, that is real, because it's inside of us, prior to what the intellect calls it. You see? So we have life experience, and then we put it in the particular map, whether it's a Christian map, or Hindu map, or atheist map, or yoga map, or whatever, and that explains it all. But the actual experience is beyond explanation. Okay, so this whole practice, you see, is creating an understanding in which we can get out of the fixes that our thinking self causes, which is held in place by the way we are taught to believe reality really is.
Program.
Yeah. So the belief that I need an external power to get out of my fix, whether that's God or an angel or a therapist or a guru or something, is part of this Western paradigm that says this thing has no intelligence. It'd be better if this was living, but this only can change if it has external force applied to it. So we believe that we can't change unless I get some external power. God or angels or saints or whatever, you know. So then we pray to the external power to get me out of my fix. Well, this paradigm says that the power is within you, and it's available if you surrender your attempt to control it. As long as we try to control our power, our mental power, I'm going to make the world work this way, I'm going to fix these people, I'm going to be this or that, you see, on my force of will. By my willpower, I'm going to fix the world, and my life, you see, is always going to run up into an unexpected and unintended disaster. So this paradigm, so anyway, getting back to my story, you know, so then when meditation happened to me, so I didn't really meditate anymore. I used to meditate when I was on the yoga path and everything because the yoga teacher told me to. Or because that's what I had to do in order to get to be certified. Or whatever, enlightened or whatever, you see. So meditation came to me, not so much then in that context of got to do that to get somewhere. It was just I wanted to do it. You know, so I would get up in the morning and I'd just wake up and I would meditate. And I've been doing that since 2005. The other thing that happened was the writing. So my writing went through various stages of letting go, where I would write to get respect, or write to get praise, or write to get likes on Facebook. So I began to notice the clinging of that ego, like the traces of ego, you know, that, and of course I still see that, but I notice it. You know, there's nothing wrong with ego if you notice it. It's like poodle poop. There's nothing wrong with poodle poop as long as you see it. If you don't see it, you step in it. So if you see it, it's no problem. The ego is no problem if you see it. So the ego is kind of like a little, oh, I'll bet you like that. And I'll say, there it is. So this whole, it just gives you a ability to relax with yourself a little bit. You're okay, You already have the peace that passes understanding. There's no way to get it. No guru or nothing, no God, nothing, Jesus is going to give it to you, because you've already got it. But you just have to relax, so it will come up. So anyway, that kind of like brings me up here. So again, I can end up, here with, and this LLI has taught me an awful lot, just like my writing has, because y'all would come here, and it wouldn't be like my yoga studio where nobody would show up. Just sit in an empty room. Y'all would be, kind enough to come and sit through this. So basically, it's taught me how to not be afraid to be a fool, so that I can speak second guessing myself, So so like I was watching an interview with Chris